Thanks for joining us today, Live Music Nation Podcast Festival Edition. Today we are with Allison Hamling. She's from the Greeley Downtown Committee. Allison, thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Good. Allison, give us a little background on you. Tell us about your childhood, where you grew up, and then talk a little bit about your career in the private sector, and then also now with your nonprofit.
All right. Well, I grew up in the Hudson Valley, upstate New York, just about an hour and a half north of New York City. Not too far from Woodstock, New York. So everybody kind of relates it to that. Oh, you're from near Woodstock, which the festival is actually farther away in Bethel, but that's another whole story, right?
Right.
Came out to Colorado when I was about 19 years old. Been here ever since. It's been a long time. I have a background in radio and television ad sales and a background as a musician and singer with a band. So a little bit of musical background and everything. And I've been here in the nonprofit sector for the Downtown Development Authority for 12 years now.
Very good. Very good. So tell us a little bit about what you guys do and some of your bigger events throughout the year.
We created this position 12 years ago. I had been the volunteer coordinator for the Greeley Blues Jam since its inception, probably for about 8 or 9 years or so. And one of the people who started that festival was at the time the executive director of the Downtown Development Authority. They did a strategic plan with a company called Professional Urban Management Association. They put together a plan that said you need more events, you need better marketing, more events, you need more consistent events, and you need a full-time person to do it. So since Pam was kind of familiar with my work as a volunteer coordinator and I was in between jobs at the time, she reached out to me to apply for this position. So the first thing I did was kind of like look and assess what kind of events we had going on, which really wasn't much. So one of the first things I created is one that we just got done doing. Well, that's Saturday was our Blarney on the Block. That was the first new festival that I created. And then we had a festival called Friday Fest, which is a regular concert. It used to only be like 4 times per summer. What happened was Colorado passed a law of common consumption. It's etched in my brain. It's SB 11-273. Which allows you to establish an entertainment district, and the bars and restaurants can all serve their drinks and go cups. So it took 9 months to implement that. So that allowed us to do Friday Fests on a regular basis. We do them every Friday night all summer long now. That's probably our biggest thing.
Special. That is super special. Allison, for you in this position, it's almost like you were made for this position. You kind of got your upbringing in radio and sales, and so people skills are number one there. And then your passion for music on the personal side, that was there. It's like this is a perfect setup for you to be a part of this. So I can't think of a better position for you to be in than exactly where you're at. Now, I think it's also interesting that your survey that you took, and you said you need more events. Why? Why do they say you need more events?
Downtown at the time, where you find, we're called the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, and where you find DDAs are places where downtowns are struggling and they need revitalization. And this strategic plan basically said that one of the things that will help revitalize a struggling downtown is to have regular events that attract people to your downtown. It's kind of a which comes first, chicken or the egg kind of thing. But frankly, once we started doing these events, it had the effect of the restaurants that were here renovated and added patios. If they already had patios, they added more seating to their patios. We got new restaurants who came and leased some of the empty spaces just because of our Friday Fests. And a couple of them that didn't have patios built new patios to be outside. So it had a fairly quick, very good economic payback.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense as we go through there. Allison, what are the rewards in this job for you? Like, I know that this is a paid position, but it's also a lot of volunteer time, a lot of time outside of work dedicated to this. Where do the rewards for you come in this?
Every once in a while, I get to the point in the middle of an event or just as we're getting started with an event where I think, what am I doing? I am out of my mind trying to do this. Sorry. Um, and as soon as people arrive and you see the smiles and people having a good time, and all of our events are very kid friendly, that's when all of a sudden you go, oh, that's why I do this. I remember why now, because it's a lot of work. Yeah. But you know what it does for your community. I always say one of my biggest things is you get out of a community what you put into it. And you will have your most rewarding experience wherever you live if you get involved, and you bring your community together.
Yeah, I think you just wrapped it up as perfectly as you could. All right, Allison, this is the segment of the show where you tell us about your events. Let's talk about the Friday concert series. People get there, they step out of their car. 3 questions: what are they going to see? What are they going to hear? And what are they going to smell?
Okay, it's funny you bring up the smell. Greeley has this reputation of old, and it was earned back in the day. I moved here in the mid 80s, and there were feedlots a little closer to town, and but that's just an old, an old adage that really doesn't have that. Every once in a while, the wind blows the wrong way, and you remember that we are an agricultural based community.
Yeah.
That's how Greeley was established and grew. But we are over 100,000 people now. We're at almost 110,000. It's a university town. It's got 2 hospitals. It's a lot more than that now. The downtown is unrecognizable almost from 12 years ago. And so when you get out of your car, you're going to hear probably, the music, first of all. You're going to arrive, you're going to see bubbles going because we put up a bubble machine. You're going to see face painters with kids in line. You're going to see booths up. We always have access to our crowd for our sponsors. Very important because they help pay the bills, which, as you know, are significant for these things.
Right.
You're going to see balloons. You're going to see kids running around, and you're going to see people walking around with drinks in their hands with labels. And there might be a Guinness from Patrick's Irish Pub, and there might be a margarita from the Rio. There might even be a martini in there from the Crest Cinnamon Lounge, or a frozen pina colada. You can get from 12 different bars that we have in our Go Cup zone. You can get anything they serve in their bar in a Go Cup and bring it back outside and walk around with your family and have a great time.
Well, you described it, Girth. That's perfect. Okay, this is the segment of the show where you get to ask me one question. Allison, what would you like to ask me?
Oh God, well, that's a good question. What do you find is the biggest challenge in the festival world right now for promoters and organizers?
The biggest challenge, I think, is the cost of artists. And I think that happens because there's so many middlemen, there's so many middle agents, and the gap between $1 million artists and $10,000 artists it's huge. There's not a lot of in between, and I think unless you're highly unless you're highly creative in your sponsorships for your events, it is very hard to cover the cost of the entertainment with your ticket sales. And that's probably the biggest thing that we continue to hear across the board from coast to coast, is that the costs have gone up. And really, I thought we would see the opposite after COVID. Everybody coming back out on tour, it would be a competitive market, and artists would have to drop their prices. But so far they haven't. And I don't know if that's a trickle down from inflation because of transportation costs and different things like that. Now you have to have added security measures. And it's not only a safety of security while you're at the event, it's a safety and security of, you can only have this many people in this section so they're not pushed against the gate, and we don't have another trampling incident. There's just so many factors, and they all require money to get that. So yeah, I think cost is the biggest issue.
Yeah. And you're spot on with the creativity with your sponsorships, and for us that has been key. Most of our sponsors now are repeat sponsors, and it's because you have to give your sponsors a good experience. During your event, you have to be checking in with them all the time and making sure they are all set and they are happy and they're having a good time, because then they will come back. For all of our events last year, we raised over $70,000 in sponsorships for the year. And that's just from our local community, basically.
Yeah.
It's not any, big players. So if you give your sponsors a good, rewarding experience, you got to ask them, what's a good sponsorship look like to you? What's your return on investment you're looking for? And make sure you're on the same page. If it's unrealistic, let them know. But try to be flexible and try to give them the experience they're going to need and give them the rewards they need as a sponsor, and they'll come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Allison, how do people find out more about what's going on with Greeley Downtown?
We have our Downtown Greeley Facebook page. It's probably the #1 place that most of us use now. We have, of course, Instagram. I haven't done the TikTok thing yet. Might get there. We have a new employee. She's younger than me, probably going to pick some of that stuff up. And then our website, of course, is downtowngreeley.com. And you can click on our events. We have signature events. And then Friday Fest has its own page as well. I haven't announced the lineup yet for this year. I haven't set the lineup yet for this year. I have about 20 Fridays to book. In that process right now, I'll probably announce the lineup in April.
Yeah, perfect. Allison, thanks for being on with us today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks. This was a great experience.
Absolutely.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine.